Well, howdy there, internet people. It's William. Tonight, I am going to articulate myself better. 2 days ago, I made a video about whether Beau of the fifth column is worthy of restorative justice. People in the comment section said that I was mumbling. They did not understand anything I said. So I'm making this video to articulate myself better. The point that I was trying to make is um, whether Beau of the fifth column is worthy of restorative justice. And the simple answer is no, because he never admitted on what he did, and he never attempted to reach out to his victim to restitute them for stealing their paycheck. He brought these workers from overseas, from Romania and Bulgaria, and to work for him and pay them below the minimum wage, and he engaged in human trafficking. So that alone makes him unworthy of restorative justice. Just to articulate myself better. And there was even an article from the Daily Dot in 2024 uh, that talked about his conviction. So here. So here. I will put the link in the comment section. We cannot have someone advanced on the left who has exploited people like this. Who is Beau of the fifth column, really? So enforcement was carried out by verbal abuse, threats of fines, non-payment of wage. So this is human trafficking, but he was only charged of alien smuggling, which enabled him to lie about the detail of his case because he was supposed to serve 10 years in federal prison. They were supposed to charge him of alien smuggling and human trafficking. But they only charged him of alien smuggling. So the point I'm making, is he worthy of restorative justice? Yes, he is worthy of restorative justice. He just have he just needed to do two simple things: come up clean about his past, or restitute his victim, which Beau has done none of them. He can do that if he wants to. He has the platform to do it. His wife is running a channel with over 800,000 subscribers, but he chooses not to. This is why, in my opinion, he's not worthy of restorative justice. So this was the video where he tried to make up a manufactured story that there was a non-governmental organization that wanted to use his content to de-radicalize people, which is false. It was Mike from PA exposing him for lying about the case.
Expressing my true self is powerful. I'm Jordan Childs, and I am a world-class gymnast.
Well, howdy there, Internet. those who are actively searching for how to do something violent.
Nope, that's not true. It was Mike from PA. Yeah, so Mike from PA video is not in.
Are clean.
So
With
yeah,
wigs. Were your words?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike from PA, and we are here to talk about Beau of the Fifth Column. Beau is a famous lefty YouTuber with over 600,000 subscribers, known for his big unkept beard and his southern drawl. Beau has been growing in YouTube and becoming a larger and larger influence on how the left is perceived, both on this platform and in much of the discussions of leftism on the internet as a whole. Recently, I was disturbed to find out that he had a checkered history and his past behavior in exploiting workers, vulnerable people, including female immigrants, young women, 19 years old, brought here to work for less than minimum wage, and he personally profited. Beau has not shown any contrition whatsoever for these actions. And before we get started, this video is not intended to cancel someone, to be a purity test, or do anything to damage the leftist community as a whole. I'm making this video because I believe it's important that we on the left hold each other accountable, especially when one of our own refuses that accountability. For those of you crying that Beau has come redeemed, he's doing a lot of good for the left. The first thing we must wrestle with is that for redemption and forgiveness to happen, one must show contrition. One must show remorse. One must show transparency and honesty. Beau has done none of those things. He continues to misrepresent what he did and why and who he was. And that is not acceptable for us on the left. What worries me most is that his voice is being advanced over others, while he has personally profited from the exploitation of recent immigrants in some of the most vile ways you can exploit someone. And we are going to go over in detail, using both primary documents, the testimony of the women exploited themselves, and the interpretations of both law and policy from a number of sources. I don't relish this, and I don't want to destroy anyone. But what I do want is that our cause to be advanced, the cause of the immigrant and the impoverished and the exploited to be alleviated. I want to see progress in this country and this society. And that will not happen unless we start showing accountability and honesty for the exploitation and harm of the past. Now, before we begin, I want you to know what we're talking about exactly. And I'm going to go to Beau himself to show you what he says and who he is.
Now, one of the questions that pops up, not one of the most frequently asked questions, but one of the questions that pops up kind of often. Am I a convicted human trafficker? No, of course not. That's stupid. Convicted alien smuggler. There is a difference.
So Beau is absolutely right that there is a difference. And we're going to
no, there's not a difference. It is pretty much the same thing. He smuggled people to come to the country and made their life awful. He did not made their life good like he claimed.
explain why he has been called a human trafficker, not by me, but by many legitimate sources and organizations that try to combat human trafficking. Beau is right. He's technically right. He was only convicted of alien smuggling and fraud and deception of those that he smuggled. But if you look at the facts of the case, you will find that he wasn't some coyote fighting to help people escape oppression as refugees. He was the most vile type of human trafficker. Somebody who brings people here under false pretenses and works them for sub-minimum wage, houses them in crowded conditions, and then exploits them for his own personal profit. I draw your attention to the United Nations definition on human trafficking. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. Men, women, and children of all ages and from all backgrounds can become victims of this crime, which occurs in every region of the world. The traffickers often use violence or fraudulent employment agencies and fake promises of education and job opportunities to trick and coerce these victims. I draw your attention to the fraudulent employment agencies because that was what Beau did, and he made millions of dollars doing it. This is who Beau is, Justin Eric King. He was sentenced 41 months in prison, followed by 3 years suspended release, resulting from his conviction on charges of conspiracy to commit visa fraud, and conspiracy to commit alien smuggling. The defendant and his co-conspirators brought illegal aliens, mostly from Bulgaria and Romania, to work in the hotel industry in and around Dustin, Florida. And that is where the trafficking comes in, the labor exploitation. Here, and in case you're wondering, here is a report from the Southern Poverty Law Center that cites his case called Culture Shock, the exploitation of J1 cultural exchange workers. One of the things that Beau did is he exploited the J1 visa. Well, what is the J1 visa? They come to experience all America has to offer. They hope to pay their way by working a summer job as they experience a new culture and learn English. They work in our hotels, restaurants, fast food chains, and amusement parks. They're J1 guest workers. The J1 Visa Summer Work Travel Program. Congress created this program 50 years ago to increase mutual understanding between the people of the United States and people of other countries by means of educational and cultural exchange. Foreign youth pay American job placement agencies designated by the Department of State called sponsors to be placed with U.S. employers in jobs that offer cultural exchange opportunities and for trainees and interns, professional job training. Now, employers are using the program to fill labor needs, transforming a program designed to foster international goodwill into a source of cheap, exploitable labor. For the employers, the program offers a way to cut labor costs. Employers do not have to pay payroll taxes for J1 workers. The savings an employer can realize by not paying an employee's Medicare, Social Security, or federal unemployment tax, around 8% on its total payroll expenses, have led staffing agencies to promote the program as an inexpensive labor force. The sponsors and their overseas partners, the groups that recruit and screen participants, are reaping a windfall by charging J1 workers hundreds or even thousands of dollars in fees to participate in the program. These fees are completely unregulated, and students and their families often fall into debt to pay them and other travel expenses. This recruitment debt leaves students vulnerable to exploitation. Faced with pressure to pay off loans, students and interns may opt to endure workplace abuse until they can return home. This is exactly what happened with Beau. He took in hundreds of women from Romania and Bulgaria and other places around the world and charged them thousands of dollars in fees in order to exploit them. And here it is. When these workers aren't on the job, they're often forced to live in overcrowded housing with other J1 workers. They are frequently paid less than the minimum wage after their employer makes excessive deductions for housing, uniform, transportation, and other expenses. Some J1 workers discover they must work a second job just to survive. But this is more than a story of debt and disappointment. It has some young students at risk of human trafficking and other nefarious activity. And you notice this footnote. That is USA versus Berman et al. This is the case that convicted Beau of alien smuggling. It was J1 SWT students used in labor trafficking scheme in the Florida Panhandle. Let's discuss these charges even more in depth. Now you know what they were doing. They were exploiting young students and young women from Romania, Bulgaria, and Eastern Europe to come here and work.
Build a website you love with wigs. Were your words?
What exactly was the process? What were they doing? How was Beau profiting? How was Beau exploiting them? Why was he charged with alien smuggling? What was the crime that he committed? This is the next document we're going to review, is the Florida Strategic Plan on Human Trafficking from Florida State University. And this was paid for by the Florida Bar Association, the goal of which was to improve Florida law and examine the major human trafficking cases that took place. So this is the Destin King labor trafficking case. King, that is Justin King, or Beau. Labor trafficking is not confined to Florida's agricultural sector, but is increasingly found in Florida's hospitality and tourism industries as well. Labor trafficking. These are not my words. This is not my interpretation. This is the view of the Center for Child Welfare and the Florida Bar Association. This is the view of his activities. The Florida Panhandle was the location of a criminal investigation that culminated in the 2008 conviction of both U.S. citizen Justin King and a number of Russian nationals for smuggling aliens to work in Florida resorts. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office had for several years been scrutinizing patterns of labor trafficking in the area of Destin and Fort Walton Beach. Beginning in as early as 1999, Russian nationals Anna, Alexander, and Stan began supplying young Eastern European men and women to Panhandle resorts for janitorial and maid services. Operating under the name of Eurohouse Holding Corporation, they brought the Eastern European workers to the Florida Panhandle for short-term work on temporary J1 or H-2B visas. Now, those J1 visas we talked about already. Those were the cultural exchange visas. He also fraudulently created H-2B visas, which is our temporary work visas. The vast majority of the workers were females between the ages of 19 and 23. Moreover, most were also students who were intent upon returning after several months to their homes in Eastern Europe to continue their studies. So the reason why I'm bringing this up and why we are going in such depth is one of the lies that Beau tells was that he was working as a private military contractor to rescue Jews from Uzbekistan and other, quote, exploited and dangerous, exploited people. That he was the good guy. He was fighting against the man. He didn't believe in open borders, when in reality, what he was convicted of was defrauding and exploiting vulnerable young women from Eastern Europe. And we're going to get into those details. This is disgusting behavior. And he continues to lie and dissemble about this past.
Yeah, and this is what the point I was making on my video 2 days ago, that I don't think he's worthy of restorative justice because he never came clean or he never restituted his victim. And even Mike from PA in this video said that even a human trafficker is worthy of restorative justice. But Beau is not interested in restorative justice. That's why he never came clean about what he actually did.
Many had been promised non-existent jobs when they were recruited in their home countries. Upon their arrival in the Florida Panhandle, they were instead employed for substandard wages by Eurohouse and assigned to work in local hotels and resorts. Eurohouse operated as a labor subcontractor, providing services to hotels such as the Sandestin Hilton. Eurohouse was able to offer the low bid on labor contracts precisely because they did not pay federal minimum wages to their employees. Beau brought women here with his co-conspirators and did not pay the federal minimum wage, which at the time was $7.25 an hour. They further charged the students between $1,500 and $2,500 each for visa processing, job placement, and transportation fees. Now do the math. If you're making $7.25 an hour and someone charges you $2,500, that is an incredible amount of money. And when you look at the scale of what Beau did, it was hundreds of people. And it led to over $3.2 million in profit from these exploited workers. In addition, the young workers were charged to stay 15 to 20 persons per condominium through a variety of locations throughout the Panhandle. So imagine this, coming to America under false promises, finding that the job you had been indicated you were going to work at didn't exist, and that you were charged $250 a month to move into a condominium with 20 other people. That was what he was doing. He was charging them $250 in rent per person and jamming them into an apartment with 20 other people. This is despicable. Enforcement was carried out by verbal abuse, threats of violence, and threats of fines or non-payment of wages. So when the women came here, remember, majority of them, 19 to 23, they were kept in line by threats of violence and threats of fines and non-payment of wages. What would you call this? Almost all the young workers had a plane ticket allowing them to return to their home countries at the end of the summer tourism season. But they would have incurred substantial costs where they would try to fly home at an earlier date. The labor trafficking conspiracy overall proved lucrative and seemingly insulated from law enforcement oversight. Because the victims were exploited on a temporary basis, they most often simply chose to return home at the end of the summer without reporting the exploitation or participating in the investigation. That was the scam. These women were not brought here as refugees. They were not brought here as long-term migrants. They were brought here under false pretenses with false promises, exploited, and then sent home. And the only person who was profiting was Beau and his co-conspirators. The pattern finally changed in 2003 with the exploitation of a group of foreign nationals, predominantly from Bulgaria and Romania. With their assistance, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office discovered a further criminal conspiracy that involved even more extensive visa fraud and alien smuggling on the part of Eurohouse officials. Now remember, It's not just the alien smuggling. He didn't just have people pay him to set up fraudulent visas. They brought them here and then they forced them to work for less than minimum wage. The ensuing investigation also revealed that U.S. citizen Justin King, Beau, was employed as the frontman for Eurohouse, negotiating new contracts with hotel owners and communicating with state and federal agencies to further their conspiracy. As part of his role in the criminal operation, King submitted over 1,000 fraudulent visa applications. King and his co-conspirators were found to have brought in over 200 foreign nationals to work as hotel housekeepers through the use of these illegally obtained visa. Evidence presented at trial showed that King and his co-conspirators had used forged hotel letterheads to further their scam. Most of the foreign national workers brought in through the fraudulent visa scheme were eventually contracted out to hotels and resorts other than those who had been supposedly sponsored them for their visa. Finally, it was revealed that when the federal government had become suspicious and stopped issuing visas to Eurohouse, King and the other defendants continued their fraudulent activity under the guise of a new labor contracting company called Woland. King was convicted on 7 counts of visa fraud and alien smuggling and sentenced to 41 months in prison. His co-conspirators received 18, 23, and 12 months in prison. They were also found liable for a joint forfeiture of over $1 million. So this is why it is human trafficking. He didn't just bring these people over for a fee. These were not people that were brought here to survive after difficult circumstances. These were not refugees. These were exploited workers who were brought here under false pretenses, paid below the minimum wage, and he pocketed over $1 million. What the hell? Curious.
And then after the trial, they returned his assets, and he got to keep all his items that he earned off human trafficking.
Human trafficking charges were not part of the prosecution. And this is the point that Beau loves to say. That is why, at the beginning of this video, Beau pointed out that he had been convicted of alien smuggling, not human trafficking. Quote, there is a difference. It's true. He wasn't charged with human trafficking. He was charged with alien smuggling and found guilty. But the facts are clear. He engaged in human trafficking. The U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Florida would later note that the criminal behavior had in fact included all of the elements that would establish forced labor under Title 18, Section 1589. In particular, the use of labor attained through false promises, through threats of serious harm, or through abuse of law or legal process, i.e. threats of deportation. This is not my view. This is the view of the U.S. Attorney. Why didn't they prosecute? I do not know. Federal prosecutors have complete discretion. And maybe they felt that it would be better and easier to secure a conviction of Justin if they didn't bring in the trafficking charges. For many people, trafficking is they imagine a kidnapped person, a person threatened with a gun, a person forced into sex work. But that is not the only thing that human trafficking can mean. As we explained on the United Nations definition of human trafficking, it involves exploitative use of deception, threats, or profit. And that includes economic exploitation, like we saw here. The King labor trafficking case is a very clear indicator of the degree to which forced labor and abusive labor practices may have permeated the Florida hotel and tourism industries in recent years. The Eurohouse investigation furthermore revealed that numerous companies acting as temp labor staffing agencies are operating throughout Florida and the nation. Many of these agencies are owned and operated by people from Eastern Europe or states of the former Soviet Union. There appears to be a high degree of interconnectivity between the companies, strong indicators of organized crime and similar patterns of exploitation practiced by the suspect companies. Ongoing investigations of labor trafficking throughout Florida also demonstrate that U.S. citizens are increasingly involved in the exploitative practices. They operate what have been referred to as quasi-legitimate companies, relying once again on the labor of foreign nationals who arrive on J1 or H-2B visas. These labor leasing companies are recruiting laborers from countries not traditionally associated with providing workers for Florida's hospitality industries. The gaps in Florida law, because they are not subject, they are unlicensed, and these labor leasing are stolen. Because who cares about U.S. the direct testimony of what to do?
Okay, so this is the point I wanted to make. He has the ability to restitute his victim. He has the platform to reach out to them to restitute them for stealing their paycheck, but he chose not to. And this is why in the video I made 2 days ago, I don't think he's worthy of restorative justice. Now, if he did truly believe that he was just an alien smuggler, then he would have responded to Mike from PA and Bad Empanada video and brought real concrete evidence that contradict all the evidence they went over to prove that he was just an alien smuggler, not a human trafficker. But he did not because he doesn't have it. That's why he rather just ignore it. But I still believe he's worthy of restorative justice if he were to do those two things, restitute his victim and come clean, which he did not. That's all I gotta say.